Welcome to Violin Adventures number 201. This week, the professor works on his varnish. We continue repairs on an 1800s violin and working on a new violin. Hope you enjoy. Professor Jasinski is putting on the sealer coat on his cello. Now he's preparing the resins for an oil varnish. He will cook this until it becomes hard like glass, and then he will grind it up. So we're working on this violin from the 1800s, and the problem that it has at this point is there's just no tone, and partly because of the glue that held it shut, and also because of the age and how thin the top is here on the edges. I'm going to stabilize it by adding some wood around the edges to bring the strength back to this top. So first thing I'm going to do is clean off all of this old glue, get it nice and smooth, and then we'll add a support system to strengthen this top. You can see here where the purfling channel has come all the way through, and that's part of the reason why the edges. Alright, just a little update on this old violin. This is the one that has very thin edges that were just cracking. And then here on the inside, I'm going to clean up all the edges here, and then we're going to take out the neck. This is the one that is all cracked on the outside, and the inner block is also cracked. So we're just going to take out the whole unit. Okay, I've never taken a saw to the button like this before, but because there's been a repair where they cut right through the button and into the neck, I have to saw it off. Okay, with much patience and persistence, we got the neck off. I took the fingerboard off and then we got it out. So there we are. The result, we've got a nice strong button, and now we can start over. Our back is in good condition now. We've got all the old glue off. We've got the crummy old neck that was broken is out now. Now we can start fresh. I'm just fitting all of this to the edges, and I'm going to take in a lot of this, and once we get it stabilized, then we can start work on getting out the bass bar. So now that we've taken everything down, we're ready next week to start building it back up. which will mean getting a new block and working on the neck. And at this point, there's no tone in this top. It's just a thud. So we'll be working on taking down the edges just a little bit, putting in proper cleats and a proper bass bar, and we hope from that it'll get its tone back. Time to start the lining for our new violin. So I've got the lining all cut and wet. Now we're going to check our heater. The lining is on for one side. We have to leave the other side unglued because we have to be able to get the mold out, right? The next step, we're going to make sure this is all beautifully flat so that we can start cutting and carving. We're going to trace the sides to the back so that we can cut it out. Okay, right here is a bow that's getting worked on both ends. So up here we have a tip that's being replaced, and then down here there was a crack at the end of the bow, the result of the screw rusting out. So I soaked the screw over the weekend in this rust remover. Okay, it did a good job. Alright, so we'll reshape the tip here, make it fit this bow, and then we're going to do a wrapping on this part of the bow. So we're going to put a wrap on this bow, and this is something that I really enjoy doing, but it takes a lot of concentration because you want to get it perfectly even and tight. And there's the bow all finished with a beautiful wrap on it. All right, it's time for our story, reading from Violins and Violinists by Franz Farga. We're on chapter 5. The chapter is entitled Cremona After Stradivari and Violin Making in the Rest of Italy. The golden period of violin making in Cremona had lasted for a century and a half. As though obeying the laws of biology, this miraculous growth, which shot up so quickly and flowered so lavishly, perished through its own extravagant vitality. the top began to wither away, and soon the leaves and blossoms began to decay. The young shoots did not find the necessary strength to develop to the full, but the radiant light that had emanated from Cremona lit up the whole of Italy. In Lombardy, Naples, Rome, and Venice, individual schools of violin making came into being. New dynasties appeared. Only one thing was sadly missing: a new genius. The heirs of Cremona fame were good craftsmen who competed with one another in great numbers. Some of them were even to be included among the classic makers of violins, but their instruments lack the final perfection which is the hallmark of the great master, a shortcoming which is probably noticeable only to a few experts and highly sensitive artists. To the ordinary music enthusiast, a Montagna or Guadagnini may be indistinguishable from the most valuable Strad. Cremona's decline, however, only set in by degrees. After the Trinity, Amati, Stradivari, Guarneri, had ceased to function, there was still a number of excellent violin makers. First among them was Carlo Bergonzi from 1686 to 1747. His idol was his teacher, Stradivari, but he was also attracted by Guarneri del Gesù, whose design he copied and whose originality he admired. The varnish of Bergonzi's violins has undergone a peculiar change in the course of time. Originally spread rather thickly, the layers came into one another, resulting in a characteristic cloud-like pattern. Bergonzi's violins are splendid, made of the very best wood with a strong, beautiful tone. The Italian collector Teresiio owned the most famous Bergonzi, a masterpiece comparable with Stradivari's best creations. Bergonzi's four sons, Francesco, Cosimo, Michelangelo, and Niccolo, did not create a single instrument that could have matched those of their father. Beside Carlo Bergonzi, there was his friend Lorenzo Guadagnini from 1695 to 1760, who remained faithful to Stradivari's design, apart from the peculiar form of his sound holes. His instruments are considered good second-rate achievements. Domenico Montagna from 1690 to 1750, who worked for some time in Cremona and then settled in Venice, was a much more important master. Only a few of his violins are known, but they are comparable with those of Stradivari on account of their brilliance of tone. His many cellos are remarkable for their powerful tone and magnificent auburn varnish. Cremona's great era came to close when Lorenzo Storioni, from 1751 to 1801, the tone of his violins is very good, and his instruments are made of first-rate wood and designed after the Guarneri model. But his sound holes are rather strangely cut and the varnish is not perfect. Storioni does not seem to have known the secret of the Cremonese formula and therefore emulated the spirit varnish of the Naples school of violin makers. We have already mentioned that the art of instrument making had found an appreciative home in rich Milan while Cremona was still at its zenith. But in Milan, too, the decline of this art began around 1780. The last efficient violin maker of Milan was Carlo Ferdinando Landolfi. He was, however, too fond of experimenting with his designs. He copied all the great Cremonese masters and left behind a great number of instruments. Some of them, with a translucent red varnish, are highly valued, especially in England. And that's where we're going to stop today. We'll pick it up next time. Freddie wants to chat.
Hi, I'm Freddie, and you guys are all my friends. Thank you for sending in your projects, and don't forget me now. You can send in more projects if you have them, so I can put them in my section. Okay, now I took a little trip down to the creek to give you an update, and so here it goes.
Well, here's the creek. It's all calm and peaceful, and looks like the beavers are gone for good. Up here across the way, they're building a huge sports complex.
And you guys, if you want to see Frederico, just let me know and I'll invite him back. Well, see you guys next time. Bye.
The Hebrew Minute. Okay, for the Hebrew Minute this week, we have a very interesting subscription this month from Lev Halam, and I wanted to share it with you. And the theme for this month is the Star of David, and so this little paper here mentions that Magen David is the Hebrew, which really means shield of David. So here we have a bunch of cards with the Star of David in them, and they're very beautiful. And on the back they have Psalm 121, and let me show you up close. So in Hebrew art, they take the psalm and they fill it out here. So this is all Hebrew. So these are just beautiful. Here's this one. And they're either prayers or psalms on the back. These are just beautiful. So then here we have a box of cookies. This is another little Star of David. And pretty. This just held the box with the necklace. This is a salad mix. It's full of a bunch of seeds. Here we have some coffee, and this really does smell good. There's a face serum, David Magen, and then we have a face wash, box of dates. I love dates. They're so good for you. In our box, there's always a book. So here's a map of Israel, just this little tiny strip of land. This section in here is what the Arabs claim. So Israel just has this tiny little section. It shows you where the businesses are in Israel. Here we are on Friday, a beautiful, pleasant day. And in the shop, let's check out the projects that we have. This is the back of our new violin. Here's the professor's cello with a sealer coat on. Here's our 1800s violin ready for repairs. We've got the lining in. We're ready to start carving. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your wonderful comments and your thumbs up. And until next time, bye.